People think a room for the dead, cold steel drawers, antiseptic air, silence so deep it rings. But I've been the night shift morgue keeper at St. Elias General Hospital in Baltimore for 23 years. I know better. The dead don't always stay quiet. It was a Thursday night when things changed. I'd just finished my third cup of black coffee, stale, bitter as tar, and was prepping the forms for a double homicide brought in from East Fayette Street, a stabbing, both victims, late 20s, male, roommates. One nearly decapitated, the other gutted like a fish. Blood-soaked sheets were still wrapped around their torsos when the orderlies wheeled them in. Put them in drawers 14 and 15, I told the interns. They avoided eye contact. Good. This job isn't for people with soft hearts or weak minds. As I logged the intake, I noticed something strange. The air was colder than usual. Not just from the chillers, I've grown used to that constant hum. This cold had ... weight. It settled on my skin like wet ash. I chalked it up to fatigue. 12-hour shifts will do that to you. But then I heard the first noise. A soft rhythmic thunk-thunk, like a heartbeat trapped in metal. It was coming from drawer 15. At first I froze, not because I was scared. I've seen bodies twitch post-mortem, muscles jerking as electric pulses die out. But this was different. This sound was deliberate, like knuckles rapping gently against steel. I opened the drawer. Inside lay the second victim, Christopher Marks, 27, arms crossed over his butchered chest, eyes shut, dead. I confirmed it earlier. Autopsy wasn't even scheduled until morning. I leaned closer. Silence. No twitching. No rigor spasms. No air escaping from the lungs. Just ... quiet. Until I looked at his hand. It was clenched in a tight fist, and something black was leaking from between his fingers, inky, thick, almost like tar. I hadn't noticed it during intake. I pried his hand open with a gloved finger. Inside his palm was a fragment of cloth, not from the bedsheets. It was older, stiff, rotted, like burlap soaked in motor oil. Sewn into it was a symbol, a perfect circle etched in rust-red thread, surrounding 3 vertical slashes. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. I slammed the drawer shut. That's when the lights flickered. Every bulb in the morgue strobed white for a second, then dimmed to a nauseating amber glow. Emergency backup mode. But there was no power failure. My desk lamp stayed on, humming. Then the hum stopped. Everything stopped. No power, no backup generator. Just me, the dead, and darkness, except it wasn't fully dark. The drawers began to glow. Tiny slivers of red light leaked from the seams of drawers, 14 through 18, faint, pulsing, like there was something alive inside, something breathing behind the steel. I stepped back, grabbed my flashlight. The beam barely cut through the gloom. Then I heard the voices, faint, whispered, a language I didn't understand, and guttural, wet, full of clicks and dragging consonants. The sounds were coming from the walls. I whipped around. Nothing. Then drawer 14 creaked, slowly, as if someone inside was pushing against it. My mouth went dry. I wanted to run, but my legs were lead. I watched, helpless, as the drawer slid out 5 inches. The body inside shifted. Arthur Jennings, the first victim, head rolling unnaturally to the side, mouth gaping open. And then ... he smiled. His lips cracked, stretched wide, splitting skin at the corners. Blood bubbled up from his gums, thick and black like oil. I dropped the flashlight. By the time I picked it up, the drawer was shut again. All the others were sealed, too. The light returned, the humming resumed, like nothing had happened, but something had. When I looked at the intake forms, they were all speedily legible. The system had wiped their names, their times of death. My signature was gone, but in its place, written in the same rust-red ink as the cloth symbol, were 3 words: Let him out. After that, nothing in the morgue felt the same. I tried reporting what happened just enough to raise a flag without sounding insane. Power fluctuations, possible contamination of bodies, corrupted files. The hospital administration buried it under a stack of forms and sent IT to check the servers. They found nothing, but the lights kept flickering every night at exactly 2:13 a.m. and every night since. I heard the whispers. They weren't coming from the drawers anymore. They were coming from the walls. See, there's a part of the hospital most staff don't know exists sub-basement level 3. Officially, it doesn't even appear on the blueprints. But every morgue keeper before me knew about it. We call it the Old Hall. It's sealed by a thick metal door behind the cold storage units, tucked behind a fake panel. The door has no handle, no lock, just a single small slot like a feeding hatch on a prison cell. They say it was built in the 1920s, back when this hospital was a mental asylum. The patients who died violently, particularly the ones deemed possessed or influenced, were kept down there, locked away from the regular dead. I've only been to that door twice in my life. Both times, I swore I heard something breathing on the other side. But after the incident with drawers 14 and 15, the dream started. It always began the same way, me standing in front of that door. The hallway behind me is pitch black. The air is thick, coppery, like the smell of blood and mold. I can't move. I can't breathe. And then the slot opens. A single eye stares out. Too big for any human skull. Yellow slitted, like a goat's. And it blinks sideways. Then I wake up, drenched in sweat, my hands covered in something gritty and black. I stopped sleeping, started taking caffeine pills just to stay alert. But it didn't help, because the voices followed me home. They whispered, through the vents. They hummed in the silence between TV channels. One night, I woke to find muddy footprints in my hallway, bare, wide, dragging with what looked like claws at the toes. I live alone. I installed security cameras, motion sensors, salt at the windows. It didn't matter. The dead from that night, Christopher and Arthur, weren't in their drawers anymore. Their bodies had been cremated by order of the coroner, but I still saw them, reflected in glass, staring at me from the corners of mirrored trays, or floating in the metal reflection of the autopsy table, always with those same stretched, bleeding smiles. And then, on the 7th night, the door appeared. Not in the morgue, in my apartment. At first I thought I was hallucinating. There it was, embedded in the wall between my living room and kitchen. Same steel, same latchless frame, same feeding slot. I tried to touch it, cold enough to burn my fingertips. That night, I drank myself into a stupor. When I woke, the door was gone, but the rust red symbol was carved into my ceiling. 3 slashes, inside a circle. I returned to work the next day, determined to end this. I checked every body in cold storage, all accounted for. But when I reached drawer 17, the one next to where Arthur and Christopher had been, I found something new. A body that wasn't logged. No tag, no form, no records. Male, late 40s, fully embalmed, but with a butchered chest cavity, organs removed, mouth sewn shut with thick black thread, and burned into his forehead. Flesh bubbled and cracked was the symbol again. This time, the circle was broken. I leaned in closer, and that's when his eyes opened. I didn't scream. I couldn't, because his lips began to move. The stitches snapped one by one as blood sprayed out like steam, and he whispered, "The door remembers. The door wants. Let him out." I slammed the drawer, but the whispering didn't stop. It's still happening. Right now, as I write this, they're chanting now, and tonight, ... I think the slot in the sub-basement door will open again, but this time, I don't think it's going to blink. That night, down to sub-basement level 3. I shouldn't have. I knew that. But I had to see if the door was still sealed. Had to know if the dreams were just dreams. If the symbols, The body with no file, the voice, were part of a psychotic break. I didn't tell anyone. You don't just request access to a non-existent floor without getting transferred for evaluation. But I still had the old keys from my predecessor, Edson. He worked this morgue for 3 years. Quiet man. Died in his sleep 2 weeks after retiring. He left a keyring in his locker. Only one key on it. Brass, heavy, stamped with a number, 313. No one had ever figured out what it opened. Now I knew. I waited until after midnight. The elevators don't go below B2, so I took the stairs, past the boiler room, past the record storage where files crumbled to dust untouched for decades. Then I found it. The rusted metal door at the end of the hallway. The same one from my dreams. No handle. Just a black, gaping slot in the center. And next to it, now visible in the exposed concrete, more carvings, dozens of them. Circles with slashes, circles with teeth, circles filled with eyes. Some looked burned and others scratched with fingernails or bone. I knelt, heart hammering, and fitted the brass key into a nearly invisible seam in the lower corner. It clicked. The metal groaned, old, hinges waking from a century of sleep. The smell that hit me, sweet rot, mildew, embalming fluid, and something worse, ... Something alive knocked me back a step. Then the whispers began again. But this time, not from the walls. They came from inside my head. Voices overlapping, crying, screaming, laughing like hundreds of souls trying to claw their way up through my skull. I pushed through and opened the door the rest of the way. Beyond was a narrow corridor, low ceiling, flickering yellow lights overhead, strung like fairy lights in a meat locker. The walls were damp, dripping with what looked like congealed blood. It ran in steady rivulets, disappearing into steel drains along the floor. And then I saw them, bodies, dozens, hanging from hooks like sides of beef. All of them mutilated in different ways, arms removed, heads twisted backward, stomachs split, open and stitched into obscene shapes, but none were fresh. They looked preserved, ancient, as if they'd been waiting. At the end of the corridor, past the meat hooks and the damp red mist, was another door. This one wasn't metal, it was made of bone. Thousands of finger bones, skull fragments, jawbones, and vertebrae, all fused together into a terrible, impossible gate. At its center, a black hole. A circular opening about 3 feet across, filled with darkness deeper than shadow. And from inside, I heard breathing, shallow. Not like a man, deep, rhythmic, hungry. I turned to run. I tried to run, but behind me, the corridor had changed. The bodies were no longer hanging, they were standing, eyes glowing red in the darkness, mouths open in silent screams, arms outstretched like they were sleepwalking. All of them faced me, and one of them stepped forward. It was Edson, my predecessor, his skin pale, lips sewn shut, but his eyes, they pleaded with me. He raised one shaking hand and pointed at the bone gate behind me. Then he whispered, though his mouth never moved, "Don't let it through." The walls screamed, not metaphorically screamed, loud, shrill, like metal being tortured. Blood sprayed from the seams in the ceiling, splattering my coat. The red mist grew thick. I dropped to my knees, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the autopsy room. Lights on, radio playing a late-night jazz broadcast. No blood, no noise, no door, no Edson. My clothes were clean, my hands scrubbed, but someone had left something on the stainless steel tray next to me. A toothed human, still warm. After that announcement, I knew something had come back with me. The air in the morgue had changed, no longer just cold, but hungry. As if the silence itself pressed in, trying to crawl under my skin. The fluorescent lights would dim and pulse for a heartbeat whenever I passed under them. casting my shadow 3 different directions at once. I stopped sleeping entirely. Worse, I stopped being alone. The security footage confirmed it. One of the interns, Kelly, me 2 days later, pale and shaking. She had been reviewing tapes from the past week, something about a missing pathology kit, but instead, she found footage of me walking into the autopsy room at 3:03 a.m. on a night I hadn't been there. Except, it wasn't me. Same coat, same posture, same face. But the thing on the screen didn't blink, didn't breathe, and behind it, following closely, something moved. Tall, thin, impossible to describe clearly. Limbs too long, dragging across the floor. Its head scraped the ceiling. The video feed glitched each time it got close. I watched it twice. Then Kelly looked at me, voice shaking. "You don't remember this?" I shook my head. She didn't come back the next day. In fact, she never clocked out that night. We found her car in the parking structure, keys still in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat. Inside her locker, we found a single item, a morgue toe tag, blank, except for one word, scrawled in red marker, soon. From that point on, I began locking every cold drawer with reinforced chains. The administration noticed and filed a complaint. I ignored it. Let them fire me. Let them try. I wasn't protecting bodies anymore. I was protecting the living. But then, they brought in a Jane Doe, unidentified, found on the outskirts of town, buried in a shallow grave, skin marbled with decay, but no wounds, no signs of trauma. Just ... wrong. Every morgue tech who came within 10 feet of her either vomited or passed out cold. I did the intake myself. As I wheeled her in, my badge clipped to the gurney was yanked. Off by nothing. Just flew off, clattered to the ground. I strapped her into drawer 11, secured the locks, and checked the temperature gauge. -20 degrees. Perfect. But when I shut the door, it didn't click. It whispered. I leaned in, close, not trusting my ears, and I heard it, unmistakable. "I remember you." I staggered back, almost tripping over the autopsy sink. How? What was this thing? I ran the fingerprints. Nothing in any federal or state database. Dental records. Useless. Half her teeth were missing and the ones that remained didn't match any human dental structure I've ever seen. They were sharp, too sharp, and backward, like they were meant to pull something in. I took a blood sample. It didn't clot, didn't react to oxygen. Under the microscope, it writhed, like it was alive, not, metaphorically, actually moving. Cells splitting, twitching like larvae. I burned the sample, and I started hearing her voice in my own thoughts, not through my ears inside my skull, whispering things I didn't understand at first. Then words in English, clearer every day. "Open the gate. Feed the cold. He is awake." It wasn't just in the morgue now. I saw her face in my bathroom mirror. Even when I turned around and saw no one, I found deep scratches on the floor of my bedroom, 3 perfect lines in a circle, gouged into the wood overnight. And worst of all, the door came back, not in my apartment, not in the morgue this time. It was in the hospital basement, just past the service elevator. Steel, silent, the feeding slot open a crack. A low wind blew out from the crack upward, not downward, like air escaping from something below. The janitor who found it, Elias, was the first to disappear. They found his mop bucket still sloshing water, wheels still spinning. No blood, no clothes, just a smear of black tar dragged across the tile, leading to the door. It was closed, but when they opened the nearby fuse box to check the cameras, there was something stuffed inside. His skin, hollow, intact, like someone had peeled him from the inside out, then folded him up and stored him. There was no investigation. Administration called it a maintenance accident, but I know better. Something has crossed over. It's no longer behind the bone gate. and whatever it is, it's walking between us. 2 nights on myself staring at drawer 11 again. The Jane Doe was still inside, silent, unmoving, but I knew she was awake. Her blood still writhed under the glass when I checked it earlier that evening. Her skin, pale and stretched, hadn't decomposed one bit. Dead bodies rot. That's what they do. It's the only law down here in the morgue that I've trusted all these years, but not her. I ran my gloved fingers over the seam of the drawer. It pulsed beneath the metal ever so slightly, like a heartbeat, and it was warm, and then the drawer breathed. That's the only way I can describe it. The steel bulged outward for a moment, like lungs inhaling. A wave of heat and rot swept across the room, and then I heard her again, not whispering this time, but clear, louder. The door is open. I stepped back so hard I knocked over the bone saw on the tray behind me. It clattered to the floor, the sound sharp and final. I turned to leave, but every drawer, every single one, was slightly ajar. Not wide enough for a body to fall out, just open enough for an eye to peer through. And they were all watching me. 100 dead eyes, in varying states of rot, sunken sockets, split pupils, cataracts filmed with red instead of gray. A silent audience. Their lids twitched, blinking. Some mouths moved. Not words, just chewing, like they were gnawing on invisible meat. I slammed every drawer shut, one by one, locking them, chaining them. By the time I finished, I was drenched in sweat and shaking. Then the power failed. No flicker, no warning, just absolute black. Not even emergency lights. And something moved in that dark. Slow, deliberate, dragging. A lemur, something worse along the tile. I could hear each step, wet and wrong, like flesh slapping marble. I fumbled for the flashlight in the drawer behind me, hands trembling. I clicked it on. Nothing, just white light on stainless steel and blood-stained tools. Then I turned to the wall mirror, and I saw it. Not a full shape, no, never that easy. Just reflections of parts. A jaw hanging too low. Arms with reversed elbows. A rib cage that breathed outward. It loomed behind me like a fractured statue made of hunger. I spun to face it, gone, but the floor where it stood was burnt. A black, charred handprint smoldered on the tile, smoking as though pressed by something from hell. That's when I decided I had to speak to her, the Jane Doe. So I broke protocol. I unlocked drawer 11 and pulled her out, expecting her to lurch up, to snarl, to open those needle-filled jaws and speak in some ancient tongue. But she just lay there, still cold, and then she smiled. It was soft, not threatening, but it shouldn't have been possible. Her muscles were too tight, the decay too advanced. Yet her lips curled, slow and deliberate. One of her eyes opened black, entirely black. No iris, no white, just liquid void. And she said, in my voice, "You already opened the door." I staggered backward. How do I stop it? I whispered. Her jaw unhinged. No pain, no cracking. Just dropped open like a snake's. Something clicked inside, and then she spoke in many voices at once. Not just mine. Men, women, children, screams. Layered under speech. Feed the gate. Close it with flesh, or it walks free. Then, her body convulsed and went limp. She was gone again, but her voice remained in my ears. Even now, I hear it echoing behind every sound. Overlapping hospital announcements, mixing with the buzz of lights, lurking behind the beep of the autopsy timer. And tonight, the cameras caught something I can't explain. I reviewed the footage from the hallway near the sub-basement service elevator. There, at exactly 3:13 a.m., the door opened. No one touched it. No key. No pass. It just slid open. And from inside, the footage showed a figure stepping out. Not tall. Not monstrous. Not yet. It looked like me. Same scrubs, same face, same tired eyes. Except it wasn't breathing. It walked down the hallway, turned left and disappeared into the stairwell that leads to the ER. It hasn't come back. It's out there now, wearing my skin. I haven't left days. Not since the other me stepped out of that cursed doorway and disappeared into the hospital above. I tried warning security. I showed them the footage, but on their screens, nothing was there. Just a static loop of an empty hallway. No movement, no figure. They looked at me like I was unstable, asked if I needed to take a leave. I almost laughed. A leave? From what? From being hunted by my own skin. The whispers haven't stopped. They've grown bolder, more confident. Sometimes I feel the words crawling across my brain, like centipedes laying eggs behind my eyes. Sometimes I answer without realizing it, mouth moving in sleep, or while I'm staring at the bone saw, hands shaking. The Jane Doe is gone, no trace of her. Drawer 11 was empty when I opened it yesterday. Chains still in place. Locks untouched. The body evaporated. The camera footage for that night. Static. 10 hours of black and white, nothing. But something was left behind. Inside the drawer, etched into the metal lining, was a message. He wears you well. And underneath, clawed into the steel like it had been done with fingernails or teeth, was that same broken circle. But this time, the center was open. A void, a hole. I've sealed the morgue now. Welded the main door shut, bolted the vents, taped the cracks with surgical plastic. But I still hear him, me. He single quotes outside. He talks to the walls in my voice. He taps on the lights. He walks the halls and waves at the nurses. No one notices the difference. No one sees that his eyes don't blink or that his teeth never move when he speaks. No one cares that his shadow is wrong, that it twitches like it's made of dying animals stitched together. He's perfect. He's replacing me every time I fall asleep. I dream of the gate in sub-basement level 3, but now it's not closed. Now I see what's beyond it. A cathedral of bone in endless dark. Thousands, millions of these hollowed figures kneeling, skinless and worshipping a pillar of flesh with no face. Its ribs open like jaws, breathing in the prayers of the dead. And in the center of it all, a version of me, smiling, wearing my coat, my name tag. Only his name is crossed out, replaced by the Dory woke today with blood on my lips and a ring of teeth marks around my neck, my own dental impression. Like I tried to eat myself in my sleep. I am losing time. Hours vanish. I found a tray with a half-completed autopsy I don't remember doing, and the subject, me. My chest, sewn shut with surgical thread. My eyes, removed and floating in jars nearby. My heart, gone, but I'm still here, still breathing. I think he's wearing my life, while I rot here beneath the hospital. And now I hear the gate opening again. Not the steel one, not the bone one, the real one, the one they built inside me. I am the last one left. Kelly is gone. Luis is gone. Edson's ghost never came back. The interns don't speak anymore. They shuffle through the halls like sedated cattle, eyes ringed with black, their voices echoing with strange syllables when they think no one hears. I look at myself in the mirror, and sometimes my reflection smiles before I do. So I've decided I will end this the only way I can. I've injected every vein with formalin. I've carved the circle into my chest with the bone saw. I've eaten the last tooth she left for me, and now I lie here, cold, in drawer 0, the hidden one beneath the floor, the one they use for bodies that must never be found. If you're reading this, I've already sealed the drawer behind me. He won't know until it's too late, and maybe, just maybe, the door will close with me. But if it doesn't, if you hear someone in the halls who looks like me, talks like me, calls your name like an old friend, don't answer, don't follow. And for the love of all that still breathes, never open the drawer.